Okay, good debt versus bad debt. That won the vote. So real quick, it's quite simple. When you ever hear someone talking about good debt versus bad debt, they're specifically referring to the debt that generates an income versus debt that doesn't. So if you get the Amex and you go down to Louis Vuitton to buy the $1,000 shoes and the $4,000 handbags, generally those items will not produce an income, so that would be classed as bad debt. On the other hand, if you go and buy something that is income producing, like a rental property, and it generates an income, many people would classify that as good debt. It's a good debt because without the debt, you wouldn't have the income, and now you've got the debt, and the income covers all of the debt repayments plus some, plus it puts money in your pocket. You got positive cash flow. Some people call that good debt. Those kinds of definitions are pretty public knowledge. You just Google that, and a lot of people stick to that, agree with that. I promise to share some of my own opinions and ideas on the topic. So firstly, one thing is that home ownership. Regarding home ownership, I agree with the philosophy, because when you go and buy a home and you get the mortgage and you move into the thing, guess what it doesn't do? It doesn't deliver an income. So it's not an asset, it's a liability. Now, as Rob Kiyosaki says, when you go and tell mass population that their home is not an asset, but it's actually a liability, they don't like to hear it, because they were told by their bank that it is an asset. The bank classes it as an asset. You got a home, that's an asset. That's called an asset, right? So my first bit of advice that I really want to share on this topic is that when you go through your financial journey, you are going to have different beliefs, definitions, idealisms projected onto you, but understand that those projections will match the agenda of the person talking. So if you go and ask your bank if your home is an asset, they will say absolutely as an asset. You go and ask your real estate agent trying to sell you a house if it's an asset, they're going to say absolutely your home is a bloody good asset. It is a fantastic asset. But if you go and ask someone who is financially independent and someone who is invested in you achieving financial independence, ask them if your home is an asset, they'll say, show me your cash flow statement. Show me your cash flow statement and we'll have a look objectively. Usually it will not be. So my first bit of advice is watch for the hidden agendas. My second bit of advice is that you can have too much of a good thing. Good debt, I don't really say it's good debt. The good debt has benefits and drawbacks. It's a double-edged sword. You can overcook your so-called good debt. You can use it too much. And so one very popular strategy that has sustained through the ages and that has trapped a lot of people is the domino investing strategy, where you sacrifice all of your liquidity for the first deposit to buy a home. It goes up in value. Then you draw on the equity from the property that's gone up to get the next home and the next home and the next home. And with that particular strategy, you can haul ass in boom markets. You can become a millionaire in a pretty short period of time, and you don't even have to do all that much for it. However, a lot of people who do that don't really understand the market. They have very short time horizons. They don't remember that the market goes through cycles as well. And so if they're not saving and keeping liquid and building cash cushions to stabilize the volatilities of their portfolio, which is leveraged through the hilt, and they're wringing out every bit of equity from property to property to property to have this portfolio that's artificially inflated, when the pullback in the market comes, they could be balancing on a tightrope, where if the shit hits the fan with just one of their investments, it could knock the whole portfolio out. And so they have pursued financial independence when in fact what they have done is manifested another dependency. They're dependent on the market doing something or not doing something. And then my final bit of advice on this particular topic is know where you want to play the game. What's true for you? What's important for you? Because if you go and listen to Donald Trump and Rob Kiyosaki, who have written a book together, and they talk about good debt, bad debt, they are smart guys, right? But unless you want their lives, and unless you want to create the kind of wealth that they have in your life, then their advice isn't going to be the most efficient for you. Remember, Trump has gone bankrupt in his company 6 times. There was one point in time where he was 900 million in the red. Just in 2012, Rob Kiyosaki's company, the Rich Dad Company, filed for bankruptcy. So they promote using debt to your advantage. And in these big they're moguls. In big companies, you need to use debt to grow. But unless you want that lifestyle, it's not the advice for you. I tend to find that a lot of people have family values. They want to be at home. They want to be financially free. They don't want a boss. They want to be there for the kids and help to raise them without having to send them to daycare. And so the strategy for them is not going to be the same strategy a billionaire uses to manage his corporations. If you want to build financial independence that's sustainable and not very volatile, if you want to deal with the threat of bankruptcy, the threat of having your portfolios knocked over because you've leveraged up too much, my advice is don't use debt. Don't use any debt, good debt or bad debt. Don't do it. But if you want to knock out 5 billion and start a bunch of corporations, then Trump is probably the one you're going to want to listen to. Go read the book and go and follow those principles. But know what you want is really the moral there. Know what you want and find the people with those specific results.